Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for being here for this November 18th meeting of the Pima County Board of Supervisors. Our first item is to turn it over to our clerk, Melissa Manriquez, to call the roll and establish quorum.
Supervisor Allen.
Present.
Supervisor Cano.
Here.
Supervisor Christie.
Here.
Supervisor Hines. Chair Scott.
Here.
Let the record show Supervisor Hines is not present. All other board members are present.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manriquez. We'll now go to the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have one of our corrections officers from the Pima County Sheriff's Department, Caitlin Acosta, who will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Let's now go to the land acknowledgement statement. And we have with us the Chief Executive Officer of the Primavera Foundation, Tisha Tallman. And Ms. Tallman, just to show that you're never too old to ask your mother to come watch you do something in public.
That's right.
And your mom is with you today.
That's right. Mary, you can stand, Mom. It's Mary Rivera Ayala Tallman.
Please.
Thank you. On behalf of Pima County residents, we honor the tribal nations who have served as caretakers of this land from time immemorial and respectfully acknowledge the ancestral homelands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the multi-millennial presence of the Pasquayaqui tribe with Pima County. Consistent with Pima County's commitment to diversity and inclusion, we strive towards building equal partner relationships with Arizona's tribal nations.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tallman. Appreciate you being here. Anything you want to share with us about what's going on at Primavera?
Yes, well, I'd like to thank you, of course, for our continuing partnership with Pima County and understanding the importance of the crisis that we all face of affordable housing. And, of course, we are not alone in that struggle. The nation is very challenged with affordable housing, so we appreciate the partnership. I do want to tell a quick story because I think it says something about where I come from and how it relates to Primavera. And I know I was honored with being able to read the land acknowledgement on a previous occasion, and something came in the way of that. So I think all things in good time. And I think the timing was right now. My mom being with me, I get to hear all these wonderful stories about my grandparents and our ancestors and where we come from. My mother's family came to this country from Mexico as Mexican migrant farm workers. And my father's side, he worked in factories his whole life. Very much the reason why I do what I do. But my mom tells this wonderful story about my grandma Isabel. And my grandma Isabel in the late 40s had a home with my mother's 8 siblings down by the railroad tracks in Fort Dodge, Iowa. And that's where they settled because my mom was the baby and they were all born in different places depending upon the migrant farm working that was available in the different states. So my mom was born in Iowa, and Fort Dodge, Iowa, they lived by the railroad tracks. And in the late 40s, there were economic times not unlike what we're experiencing now with the income inequality in this country. And men would travel on the railroads, and they jump off the railroads from place to place. And they happen to jump off the railroad sometimes by my grandma Isabel's house. And there they would stop in and they would be welcomed with a meal. And my Uncle Jesse, my feisty Uncle Jesse, said one time, "Why are you letting these strangers in our home?" And my grandma Isabel said, "In this home, they're allowed dignity." And that is not unlike what Primavera does. Primavera has been very much a part of the community, working in and with community for 43 years. And it's not just about providing a meal or a house or clothing. It's really about establishing home and what home is to all of us, which is community. So with that, I feel that I'm in purpose, and I extend that hand to all of you to be a part of this amazing community of giving. Thank you.
What a wonderful and important story. Thank you. We will now go to item number 4 on the agenda. The board will note this is the first time we've had this item. It's intended to replace the necessity of asking for a point of personal privilege. Any current events or public acknowledgements? Supervisor Christie? No, I'm sorry. I thought you were turning on your microphone. Anybody else? Supervisor Cano.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I wanted to start off today's meeting with a moment of silence in honor of Ernesto V. Portillo, a native of Chihuahua, Mexico, who established a 50-year career in Spanish-language radio in Tucson. Mr. Portillo passed away in the pre-dawn hours on November 2nd, Dia de los Muertos. He had celebrated his 92nd birthday on October 21st. Mr. Portillo's legacy is defined by his unwavering commitment to elevating the voices and the stories of the community he loved. Through decades of journalism and broadcasting, he helped bridge Tucson's diverse communities and encouraged empathy and civic engagement. He will be remembered for his integrity, curiosity, and devotion to truthful storytelling. His enduring impact stands as a testament of how one person's dedication to authenticity and connection can shape a community's narrative for generations to come. At this time, I ask that the board and our guests join us for a moment of silence in honor of Mr. Portillo. Thank you, Chair Scott.
Thank you. Supervisor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just acknowledge the terrific rally that was organized by the Patagonia Alliance, the Sierra Club, and many other organizations this past Saturday down at the San Rafael Valley. It is an area of incredible sort of ecological importance. It's an area where one of the remaining jaguars continues to cross the border, and it is one of the last stretches, with the exception of the Tohono Nation, where there is not a border wall. So there was a rally, about 100 people there on Saturday, really kind of mobilizing a lot of the resistance to ensure that we can protect this important region. I also want to thank a couple of district councils on the Tohono Nation for creating space for me to be on their agenda and perhaps a little long-windedly explain some of the things that we have been doing at the board.
You can now unmute yourself by pressing *6.
And so much appreciation to the Baba Kibri Council, the Guachi Council, and then we'll be out at the Shuktoa Council this Saturday. And then finally, the Western Pima County Community Council is meeting this Thursday in Ajo. They meet every month, and it is a wealth of information and also volunteer leadership in Ajo that's driving forward a whole long list of projects that makes Ajo stronger. So appreciate the leadership across the district in making our county and our communities and our nations stronger.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Allen. And on the behalf of the District 1 team, I want to ask the county administrator to please commend staff from the Office of Emergency Management for joining my staff and I last Thursday at Coronado K-8 School to talk with residents of the Catalina area about fire mitigation, fire response, and the increasing concern that we see around the state about insurance costs. We were also very pleased to be joined by a large contingent of staff from the Golder Ranch Fire District. All right, let's go back to our clerk, Ms. Manriquez, for agenda adjustments.
Okay, on the regular agenda, page 4, item 16, under County Administrator. This is the OB Companies and Rio Nuevo presentation. This item will be heard at a time certain of 10 a.m. On page 4, item 19, Elections. This is the canvas. This item will be heard at a time certain of 9:30 a.m. On page 5, items 25 and 26, and page 6, items 27 and 28. These are the contracts under detainee and crisis systems. These items will be heard at a time certain of 3:15 p.m. On page 5, item 29, it's a contract under real property, American Battery Factory, Inc. This item will be heard at a time certain of 11 a.m. On the consent calendar, under contracts with Community and Workforce Development, the City of Tucson, staff requests this item be removed from the agenda. On the addendum agenda, on page 1, item 4, under Board of Supervisors, this is opportunities for Pima County to support SNAP recipients. Supervisor Allen requests this item be heard at a time certain of 11:20 a.m. On page 2, item 6, under Board of Supervisors, this is resolution number 2025-56, reaffirming fentanyl as a public health crisis and establishing the One Pima initiative. Supervisor Connell requests this item be heard at a time certain of 10:30 a.m. And page 2, item 7, under County Administrator, Central Arizona Project Presentation. The presenter requests this item be continued to the board meeting of January 20th, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Manriquez.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Supervisor Christie.
would it be possible and appropriate if we could combine agenda item number 19 with addendum number 3?
Yes, actually, that was noted in the note that I got from the clerk. She made that recommendation. We will do that. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, I believe, yes, we have just one proclamation to present today. This is item number 6 on the regular agenda. Presentation of a proclamation to John Netherland, Deputy Director, Eliana Acosta Zavala, and Amy Lind, epidemiologists, Pima County Health Department, proclaiming November 18th to November 2025 to be National Antibiotic Awareness Week. I'll move the item.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Supervisor Allen. Discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes 4-0, and I will be making this presentation. Please. You can join us. Right up here, sir. Do you mind holding that? I don't know. Thank you very much. All right. Whereas Pima County is dedicated to protecting, promoting, and improving the health of all through responsible antibiotic use. And whereas antibiotics are powerful, life-saving medicines used to treat bacterial infections. And whereas antibiotic resistance can develop from inappropriate, unnecessary, or excessive use of antibiotics in human, animal, and environmental sectors. And whereas inappropriate use of antibiotics allows bacteria to adapt and become resistant, making the antibiotics less effective over time. And whereas, if not mitigated, antibiotic resistance will adversely affect health outcomes by making common bacterial infections difficult or even impossible to treat. And whereas appropriate use and disposal of antibiotics, from doctors to farmers to families, can reduce the impact of antibiotic-resistant pathogens in human, animal, and environmental health. Now therefore be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims November 18 through November 24, 2025 to be National Antibiotic Awareness Week, a time to promote the judicious use of antibiotics by healthcare professionals, veterinarians, and environmental and agricultural workers, and prevent infections through everyday actions such as effective hand washing, staying current on vaccinations, and safe food handling among the general public. Pima County, alongside tribal, state, and national partners, encourages everyone to be part of the solution because it takes all of us. Congratulations. So much. You bet.
Yes, good morning. I just wanted to thank Supervisor Scott and the rest of the county leadership for supporting the Pima County Health Department in raising awareness for antibiotic resistance and how to prevent that. And thank you again for the dome will be lit purple in recognition of Antibiotic Awareness Week today, tomorrow, and the next day. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And he's going to want to. move into call to the public, but I want to advise people who signed up for call to the public, because of the time certain items that we have at 9:30, 10, 10:30, 11, 11:20, call to the public is going to be interspersed throughout those items. I will read the rules and regulations for call to the public. Citizens attending the meeting shall observe rules of propriety, decorum, and good conduct. Any person making personal impertinence
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Kano.
while we wait, I just want to offer my appreciation to all of our communications and information technology staff for taking care of us at every single meeting, especially, thanks. Especially today, you know, this board over the last couple of months has been exceeding our average meeting length, and as a result, the tapes in the back that record all of our meetings have been running out. So either we're talking too much or the technology is not keeping up, right? But I just want to say
It's got to be the talking too much.
I agree. I would happen to agree, Chair Scott. But, you know, as we wait for this, it is a good moment to thank our IT and communication staff.
All right, our IT director is giving the thumbs up, so we must be okay. Sheriff Nanos, thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to be very brief. I'd like to, Mr. Smallhouse, Ms. Dykes, would you please stand for a moment, please? These are two community members of the Reddington area who have worked with our team for a number of years, actually, but more recently on some very tough problems out there to get things resolved. And I really wanted to recognize them and thank them, because it's community commitment like this. They're not here for themselves. They are here for their community. So thank you both for taking the time. You know, we've had a lot of challenges, and Mr. Christie, myself, Ms. Lesher, we've worked with a lot of different people in the Reddington area, to include AT&T and Verizon, to find out what kind of cell coverage we can get for better communication out there. To my team, we've had my team work with that community. We've met with them. There's a number of issues. You have one in front of you on one of the agendas. I'm not sure where at exactly, but I'm here just because I was asked by a number of the members of that community, as well as Mr. Christie and others, that this is an important piece of what we're trying to do to get to our rural communities, particularly those that really are over the mountains, if you will, quite a struggle to get there with the staffing limitations we have. So I think you have in front of you a agenda item that deals with grading of the roads and surface roads. That's a game changer for my team, and so that we don't bottom out our cars and destroy our equipment getting to those people in a hurry when sometimes that's what it takes. So we continue to work with Reddington. There's a number of things we're still working on. This is just one. I want to thank the board for getting this on the agenda. Mr. Christie, thank you so much. And I'm just here to offer my support. If that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
And that item is on the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right. Our first three speakers, and you're welcome to come to the front of the room and wait for your turn. In this order, Randy Rist, Sarah Hagigi, and Wendy Shader Black. And before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that Supervisor Hines has joined the meeting. Good morning, Supervisor. Mr. Rist.
"12:40 a.m. in my neighborhood. Now, I came to you 3 months ago and asked for help. Just before I came to you, I turned in to PAC a complaint. In 3 months, it's gone nowhere. Unless Carmine can tell us today that it is going. Now, having said this about PAC, I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Department, I guess he left, for the 9 citations that they have issued. I'd like to thank you for listening to all of us and our complaints, having the graciousness and the patience to sit here. Which brings me to Conover, which I hope is not slanderous, but she doesn't think she can prove that this is unreasonable. What kind of incompetence is over there? And she is also a lady who will not, ignores your phone calls, ignores your emails, so I can't go complain to her. So thank you for listening. This file goes for 30 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Rist. You still have 40 seconds if there's more you wanted to say.
That's about it. Maybe Conover will hear of this. This time of the year, there's neighbors that like to sleep with their windows open. This goes on not every night, goes on every day, all day long.
Thank you, Mr. Rist. Sarah Hagigi? Did I pronounce your last name correctly? Or close?
Hagigi, you were close.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Sarah Hagigi, and I'm a proud resident of District 1. I came to the United States in 2013 as a refugee with $45 in my pocket and a hope for safety. Leaving my country was devastating, and starting over here was one of the hardest things I've ever done. During my first year, SNAP was more than food assistance. It was stability, dignity, and health. It meant I could buy groceries, cook familiar meals, and focus my limited income on transportation, rent, and the work clothes I needed to start a job. It allowed me to take adult education classes to improve my English and prepare for employment. As someone who had experienced displacement and trauma, not worrying about my next meal gave me the mental and physical strength to rebuild my life. Refugees work hard to integrate. In that first year, I was working part-time and volunteering at a shelter, distributing food and attending adult education classes. Those supports helped me move from survival to self-sufficiency. Today, as an educator working with adult learners, including many refugees I see every day, that food insecurity harms learning, health, and family stability. SNAP is not just a nutrition program. It is a lifeline that helps people regain their footing so they can contribute back to the community, just as I'm able to do now. I urge the board to approve the creation of the short-term crisis and emergency resources grant to support organizations responding to the impact of SNAP benefit cuts, and ensure that adult education, job training, and volunteer service count towards SNAP's new 80-hour monthly work requirements, so refugees and other vulnerable residents can continue building the skills they need to succeed. When refugees are nourished and given pathways to education and employment, they thrive, and so does Pima County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hagigi. Ms. Black.
Thank you. You did actually pronounce my name perfectly the first time.
Thank
you so much. Good morning, Chair Scott, members of the board, and County Administrator Lesher. My name is Wendy Shader Black, and I'm the Director for Teaching and Learning with Pima Community College's Adult Basic Education for College and Career program. We serve more than 4,500 adult learners each year, including over 600 refugees who come to us to build English skills and move their families towards self-sufficiency. In our classes, students gain far more than English. They build workforce skills, life skills, and the confidence they need to navigate their new communities. However, recent SNAP policy changes have put those opportunities at risk. As you know, due to H.R. 1, refugees and asylees who do not yet have lawful permanent resident status are now ineligible for SNAP benefits. For families already fleeing hunger and instability, losing food assistance is devastating. Food insecurity makes it harder to focus in class, increases stress, and often forces learners to take on extra jobs, slowing their progress and delaying access to better employment. At the same time, some refugee learners who are permanent residents and therefore still eligible for SNAP are facing a new challenge. We are hearing conflicting guidance that adult education and non-credit workforce training hours no longer count toward the 80-hour monthly requirement for able-bodied adults without dependents. This contradicts Arizona's SNAP Employment and Training Policy Manual, which still lists adult education and workforce training as qualifying activities. Students report that their documentation is being rejected, despite no formal written change in policy. This appears to reflect new expectations around verification, rather than an actual rule change. These shifts threaten our workforce pipeline. If these essential education and training hours are no longer recognized, many will have to choose work over education. I want to thank the board for your actions at the last meeting and let you know that we appreciate your continued consideration of strategies to help SNAP recipients successfully document their 80 hours of work or school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shader Black.
Thanks.
All right, as noted at the beginning of the meeting, we're going to have to intersperse call to the public throughout the morning as we do some of these time-certain items. We have time-certain items on the regular agenda, number 19. This is the canvass of the November 4, 2025 consolidated election. And then we're going to hear at the same time addendum item number 3, which has to do with the conduct of the consolidated general and special election. Let's go first to item number 19. I'll move the item.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Supervisor Cano. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 5-0. All right, let's go to addendum item number 3. This was put on the addendum by Supervisor Christie, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the elections director and the county recorder for their attendance and participation. I know you got a lot of things to do, and it's probably not on your higher priority list to have to sit at a Board of Supervisors meeting, but we thank you for being here. The reason I put this item on is obviously during an election of this nature, there were a lot of questions raised from constituents and from the public in general. And I thought that this might be a very good time, since we were canvassing the recent election, to give an opportunity to the recorder and to the elections director to illuminate folks that might have questions or issues regarding certain procedures that might seem a little out of the ordinary or irregular, and to explain those situations. Basically, the item itself is to discuss the Pima County Elections Department and Recorder's Office activities during the November 4th of 25 consolidated general and special election, including but not limited to the operational differences between a typical Pima County general election and a consolidated vote-by-mail general and special election. That is a lot of words and a lot of terminology that I'm sure most of us aren't familiar with, and this would be a good time to have that discussed by those that are in charge of implementing it. So to save a little time, I'm going to throw a couple of more questions into that general discussion so you can answer them without having to go back and forth like a tennis match here. So in addition to a discussion and an elucidation of the issues on the item itself, two more questions I have is why was the recorder's office doing ballot duplication and replacement rather than the elections department? And the second question to that is, and why no observers? And if that could be discussed and presented to the public, I think that would be very helpful as well. I know it would answer a lot of questions that I've been receiving from my constituents. And finally, there was a article or a news item regarding the elections that there was a video circulating on social media of Pima County election workers emptying an overfilled ballot drop box. And of course, this created the controversy that I know folks have been experiencing. But I do remember at one particular point, I believe it was the recorder describing how those ballot boxes were going to be secured and that they had special amenities that were going to make sure that there would be no tampering with them. And it sounded to me like it was the equivalent of Fort Knox. So I was very impressed with that. And in addition to all of the other safeguards, there was another item that those drop boxes were going to be surveilled by cameras. So I guess my question is, if there is surveillance by cameras, would not those cameras have detected an overfilled drop box? And I would just like to hear the response from you officials on that item. And at this point, you know the areas we're looking for. Please take your time and explain those situations for everybody's benefit of information. Thank you.
Would either the recorder or the elections director like to respond, or are you both going to?
Thank you, Chair Scott.
Thank you. Recorder
Supervisor Christie, for the opportunity and for asking those questions. Yes, it has been a very long year. We actually have had almost 24 months of continuous elections within the recorder's office and the elections department. So it's been very. Is that good? Can you hear me okay? All right. So first is the consolidated election and what is a consolidated election. The City of Tucson normally facilitates their own elections. However, because of bond overrides in 3 separate school districts, including the City of Tucson, there created an overlap. And so rather than having the City of Tucson send out a ballot and Pima County send out a ballot, as we're responsible for administrating that election, they are then combined to only be on one ballot together, hence the word consolidated. And because those jurisdictions, special jurisdictions, had requested those be all vote by mail, all voters, regardless of whether they are signed up for the active early voting list or not, receive a ballot. So anyone who is eligible to vote within that jurisdiction or multiple jurisdictions. Because we send out a ballot automatically to every voter who is eligible, we then provide, the recorder's office then provides replacement ballot locations. Those are locations where a voter may show up in person and request a ballot. This would be considered their second ballot. It's a second request, which means that there is additional activities that we have to do within our system. We usually, if there's a reason that the voter did not receive that first ballot, it's usually having to do with either a voter registration issue or something of that manner, and we are resolving it during that time period. The replacement ballot locations act as extensions of our office, which, as you know, on election day, there's very limited data that is provided to the elections director via the electronic poll book, so they can't see the entire voter's record. However, during replacement voting, which is an extension of early voting, we can. So we are dealing with much more sensitive information during that time period, information that is protected by state statute, and we are trying to make it as easy as possible for people to participate. So that is the major difference. The elections department continues to process all the ballots. My office, the recorder's office, is responsible for the issuing of those ballots, anything having to do with the voter registration records, signature verification, and that is all. We then turn those ballots over to the elections department, and the elections department will open up those affidavits, remove them, and process them as has been described here many times before. In regards to duplication and replacement, that is still the responsibility of the elections department. We do, I'm wondering if there is some misconstrued information about that process. Other than the new ballot portal, which allows us to receive electronic ballots from military and overseas voters, we do not duplicate ballots that.
Yeah, as far as the duplication and replacement, I think they're combining two things. So the recorder's office did have replacement sites where they replaced a voter's ballot if they've lost it, damaged, or whatever may have happened to the ballot. My office, I still do the same thing that I've always done. We still program the election. We still create the ballots and design them. And then we receive those ballots from the recorder's office. And after they've signature verified, and then we process them the same way. Of course, observers are always welcome and invited to be in our office when we're doing this. When we process those ballots, we open the ballots to determine, whether or not, of course, they are for the correct election, and whether or not they can actually go through a tabulator and be counted. If the processors determine that that ballot will not go through the tabulator, then it goes to our duplication team. So my office, the early board, actually duplicates any ballots that may be damaged and may not go through the tabulator. And then, of course, we're tracking them, and they get put back into batches, and they go to the counting room to be tabulated. And so we still continue the same process that we've always done. We are not replacing ballots. And the recorder's office is not duplicating ballots. So it's still separated between our two offices.
Thank you. To the third question, why are there no observers? I have been in office for 5 years. I have facilitated 12 elections, a number of them federal elections, including this past year. We have never had observers at early voting or replacement sites during my administration, nor the prior administration. Within the recorder's office. That is not something that we have the infrastructure to provide. It is not something that is mandated by state statute. And I continue to emphasize that if there are people who are interested in learning more about our process, please apply to work within our office. We hire a number of people. They work, we struggle with this because unlike election day, which is one day where people can usually take a day off of work, we're trying to fill much longer periods of time. So an early voting site, replacement site could be open for a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and that makes it an additional challenge to fill those seats. And so once people are hired as intermittent workers, they do undergo extensive training, including hands-on training. They are made aware of all state statutes and how we comply with those statutes. And they have firsthand experience understanding the checks and balances that we have implemented within our office to continue to uphold the integrity of the election. So I know that there had been some social media chatter about denying the recorder's office denying observers at a replacement location. That situation, essentially what happened is someone coordinating from the GOP party sent a list of observers intended to those locations, and they sent them to the wrong office. They sent it to the elections department, not the recorder's office. They sent it at 6 p.m. after the close of election day, the day before election, when no one was available. We were in the middle of our duties to prepare for election day, and that email, because there had been no communication and there is no process for that, was not received by the recorder's office until the next day. Had we received that information, we would have shared that we do not have a policy to allow observers on election day. As I said, we are sharing a lot of critical information, protected information at those locations. We are asking people to explain their living situations sometimes. We are troubleshooting how to, what documents they may have to prove residency or citizenship. We're asking a lot more information in those spaces and than one would on election day. So we did communicate with the party, and we are continuing to receive additional information. But as that is not required by statute, my policy will remain unchanged as it has in the past 5 years. The last question that you had regarding the election threats, a situation occurred where our ballot drop box, which has a capacity of 1,600 ballot affidavits, was filled to nearly 3,000. We were alerted about this from voters that said it's difficult to push the ballot affidavit in. And so that ballot drop box located on the east side of Tucson is right outside of our east side micro office. However, that was not a ballot replacement location. It is simply a ballot drop box. And so that office closes every day for lunch at noon. And we started receiving phone calls. We then got a hold of our staff who were on lunch. It took them a little time to close up the office and go out and check on the box. And what they found is that people were, and this is a great problem to have, they were stuffing the ballots to capacity, and they were just putting them in there.
Madam Recorder, I don't think stuffing is a proper term to be using.
That is literally the term that they were doing. Yeah, so close to Thanksgiving, I'm sure. Yeah. But they were really jamming them into the box, and we deployed an emergency courier team, a bipartisan team from our office, to go and empty the box. When I had a staff member who was redirecting folks to their nearest location, which was the Ward 2 office, which is less than just a little over a mile away from that location, and just explaining the situation. Some people were choosing to still continue to put their ballots there. But So we redirected a few folks, just letting them know that this is not secure, and we're waiting for people. We have people coming to empty this box. This, of course, was something that we did not foresee. This is the very first time that anything that we had reached this type of capacity. And so people were upset. And when my courier team arrived, which was within 20 minutes, they both had the keys. It requires two separate, distinct keys to open the box. They were wearing recorder's office lanyards. They had their employee identification. The vehicle that they were driving had Pima County recorder's identification on it. They had black transfer bags and zip ties, seals that they used to seal them. And so when they arrived, because the box was overflowing with ballot affidavits, they then had to wiggle out. That's a technical term. Wiggle. They had to wiggle it. And they removed the ballot affidavits from the box and placed them in the secure ballot transfer bags. That process took a bit of time, and as they were doing that, we had a constituent filming that entire scenario. Everything that my couriers did was approved in our trainings. It was completely by the books. We have a clear chain of custody. Those ballots were secured and it was emptied. And while we had them emptying, I had a third staff member there directing people and explaining what they're doing. They're emptying the ballot drop box. You may leave your ballot directly in the transfer bag. And so the communication to the public was occurring. After that situation, that constituent, member of the public, posted that online, and that resulted in some outrageous claims that people were tampering with the box, that people were doing something malicious, and that was absolutely not the case. So that was all happening on election day. By the end of the day, by the next morning, we were starting to see death threats made towards our staff members, which is incredibly upsetting to our entire office. That is not normal. That is not okay. That is not acceptable. These are hardworking individuals. They have families, and they were doing their jobs.
Madam Recorder, if I may ask to elucidate a little bit more, with the camera surveillance, would this have been detected? And anybody watching on the camera to monitor this type of?
Thank you, Chair Christie, and Supervisor Christie, Chair Scott.
Fine.
The angle that we have of that box, we will be adding, we're going to be working to figure out a way to have the front of the box, if we can. We don't currently have that. There is nothing, there's no structure currently in place in front of that box. The cameras that we currently have are facing the rear of it, and the intention for the direction of the box was so that if someone really needed to, they could pull up their vehicle out of the driver's side and deposit their ballot affidavit in that way. So that, again, these ballot drop boxes are brand new to our county. We are learning more about the use and the public's interest in it. It was really exciting to see a strong number of people choosing to drop off their ballot this way. Although we still did have the same amount of people mailing ballot affidavits back as we did prior. This is still another option that people seem to really enjoy. And we're going to be installing larger boxes with higher capacity.
And maybe moving them in a different location to be monitored a little better?
We're gonna discuss our options for that. However, it is very limited in that location. Although the box is outside of the health complex, across the street is a barbecue joint. It is not county property.
And I want to make sure you have all your discussion points covered regarding that over capacity of the ballot boxes. I don't want to interrupt that, but I do have one last question, and it dealt with the signatures on the outside of the return envelopes. Could you address that?
Yes, Chair Scott, Supervisor Christie, I'd actually like to share a little bit more about the impact of the online threats that our office received and what our office did to continue to keep our staff safe. I think it's really important to know that we were alerted of that video that was circulating online through the Secretary of State's office through their activities with the Arizona Counterterrorism Information Center. They first alerted us of that situation, and then as we were monitoring, they did notify us when we started to see those death threats, which are then our office worked very quickly to screenshot, to obtain the web address, and to communicate that information to the Secretary of State's office so that we could file a case that then gets investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which we have been in contact with the FBI. The threats to election workers and the intimidation is a criminal activity. That is not, again, it is not just abhorrent, it is also against the law. And so I want to make that exceedingly clear. We have taken it very, very seriously, and we are continuing to alert the county, communicate. We also filed a case with the Tucson Police Department and informed the Sheriff's Department through our threat liaison officers through the Arizona Counterterrorism Information Center what was happening, and notified the rest of the county what was happening, including our building. As far as the signatures on the ballot affidavit envelopes, the specifically part of the reason that it's so important that we have these ballot drop boxes are to provide an option for people who are not comfortable returning their ballot affidavit via the USPS. I will say that the decision to change that ballot envelope was taken very, very seriously. We have talked to our colleagues across the state about what others have been doing and the response from the public. In all jurisdictions, they say they have a small number of people, and that's what we saw. We saw a small number of complaints about those. For the majority of people who are concerned about that, it is important to know that in order for bad actors to do anything malicious with your identity, they must have information more than what is accessible on the outside of that envelope. They need to have your birth date. They need to have your social security number, your driver's license number, all things that our office protects by state statute. So on the outside of the envelope, if people aren't comfortable with leaving their phone number, for example, we strongly encourage people to visit our voter dashboard to confirm their information, that we have the most up-to-date way to contact you in case we have questions about your ballot, and you're able to leave it off. And then we strongly encourage you to use these ballot drop boxes. And again, we will be working in 2026 to ensure that we have larger boxes, multiple boxes, more boxes available to address this issue for the public.
Supervisor Christie, any other
No, I just want to
questions?
make sure that the elections director as well as the recorder, is there any areas that of issue or concern that I missed in my questioning that you want to add to, or do you think that pretty much encompasses it?
Chair Scott, Supervisor Christie, I just want to say that the Recorder's Office and the Elections Office, we're following the guidance of the Elections Procedures Manual in Chapter 3, which references the all-mail elections, as well as Chapter 16, Article 8, which is reference of the Arizona Revised Statute. So we are following the Elections Procedures Manual and the statute when we are bifurcated anyway, but the way that the election was set up, whereas the Recorder's Office provided the replacement sites on Election Day, and I did not provide vote centers. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank our officials for being so open and loquacious with the explanation and for the time that you've given us here to explain all those things, and I have no further questions.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Cano?
Thank you, Chair Scott. I want to extend my appreciation to our county recorder and to our elections director for answering some of these questions today. I really don't get the sensational rhetoric that was posted online. The integrity of our elections are secure, they're safe, and I implore any member of the public who has doubt in Pima County system to take a look at all of the information available to voters as it relates to their ballot process. I vote by mail, and I love the fact that when I submit my ballot and put it in the mail, as I do, I get a text message letting me know that it's been received. I get a follow-up text message to let me know that my signature has been verified by our elections workers and that it's been tabulated and ready to head for processing. And that kind of process reassures me that my vote is counted, and most importantly, I hope, Madam Recorder and our elections director and our county administration, that we hold hands with law enforcement as it relates to the intimidation and threats that are illegal against our election workers. These are incidents that they are not isolated, number one, and number two, it is incumbent on us to directly negate the rhetoric that is not factual and in fact is criminal when you put the lives of our men and women in our elections department and our recorders department on the front lines. These were individuals who had every amount of verification possible. The county shirts, the ballot seal transfer bag, the lanyards identifying them as county workers. And that to me just is, it is a firm understanding of how divided we have come, Chair Scott, on this issue. And I appreciate Supervisor Christie working with our county recorder and our elections department to dispel the myths that exist as it relates to the integrity of our election system. It's an important conversation we have to have. I am looking forward to the additional reforms needed to check on the boxes a little bit more regularly. But I'm also celebrating the fact that 3,000 people went to one drop box on the east side to count their votes. That's a good problem to have. And as it relates to additional technologies, we'll have that conversation as we prepare for next year's elections as well. But those are my comments. And again, my appreciation to Supervisor Christie, to our county recorder, and to our elections director.
Thank you,
and our elections workers who did an exceptional job with the consolidated election.
Thank you, Supervisor Cano. Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Allen?
I just want to echo Supervisor Cano's comments and just layer on, please share our gratitude to all of the employees of the Elections Department, the Recorder's Office, for their incredible commitment, thoroughness, integrity, and we wish them well, for lack of better word, for standing strong, for doing such important work for the county despite threats and attacks. So please share that with them, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Supervisor Allen. Any other questions or comments from board members? I want to thank Recorder Caceres-Kelly and Director Hargrove for joining us today. Thank you very much. All right, we have another time certain item, and we're a little late getting to it, but this is item number 16 under the County Administrator section of the agenda. It's a presentation by OB Companies and Rio Nuevo on proposal to develop county-owned property located at 75 East Broadway. I would ask Ms. Lesher if she could introduce the item and our guests.
Certainly, thank you. And Mr. Chair and members of the board, Pima County has owned property located at 75 East Broadway since 2005 and has been looking to make this piece of land that is in the heart of downtown a significant partner and an opportunity within the downtown region to benefit all county residents. We've entered into an agreement in 2016, I believe, with Rio Nuevo, who has ultimately, through a series of RFPs and public communications, begun development and work with OB Companies. We asked no action by the board today, simply an understanding of where we are with the process, and we will be coming back in the future. And I would like then to turn it over to the chair of Rio Nuevo, Mr. Fletcher McCusker, who's with us today.
Thank you, Ms.
Introduce our
Lesher.
guest from OB. Thank you.
Mr. McCusker.
Chair Scott, members of the board, I'm pleased to introduce from Eugene, Oregon, Brian Obie, who runs the Obie Properties, who's pretty much a legend in the Pacific Northwest. Irene Alchecker from his staff. As Jan mentioned, they were the awardee of this project almost 2 years ago. This is a very difficult site. It's a hard site to finance. They have now committed to over $50 million to develop this site. So we wanted you to hear their story, their plans. This is a joint procurement between Rio Nuevo and the county. So you have to approve ultimately the project that goes into this site. So I have a few slides. I think they started them just to give you an update on Rio Nuevo's role in this, what we can do and can't do on your behalf. I think some of this will probably surprise you. But for those of you that don't appreciate our history, Rio Nuevo is a stadium district. It was cobbled together when Maricopa County was running stadium districts for their baseball stadiums. The city kind of snuck in there, identifying the convention center as a stadium, induced South Tucson to join with them, and they created Rio Nuevo as a stadium district. It limits us in terms of what our mandate is. Our primary component is described under the law. This is the statute, is the Tucson Convention Center, period. We are allowed to do things that enhance the convention center. That's why we spent so much time and money and food and beverage and hotels, because a convention center, a stadium, doesn't work without those adjacent properties. You can go to the next slide. I'm just going to quickly go through this. I'll leave this with you. This is the actual language in the statute that talks about us being a stadium district. We can only contribute 50% of the project's total cost. One thing that's important for you to consider, and the primary reason we did this together years ago, Rio Nuevo is exempt from the state's gift clause. We're the only jurisdiction in the state of Arizona, in fact, that is exempt from the gift clause. So the kind of things that we do, you would never be allowed to do. We can gift property, we can do under market leases, we can loan money, we can participate in equity. We've done all of that over the years. The Attorney General ruled that, in fact, when it was challenged, we are indeed exempt from the gift clause, and Goldwater has stood down in terms of our activity. So the two quick slides that touch on the statutes. I'm going to leave this with you. Go ahead, advance that one and the next one. This just indicates that Rio Nuevo is, in fact, a stadium district authorized under the law. We ran a state procurement process. So this is an official state procurement. They were selected as the awardee by an evaluation committee that included Rio Nuevo and county staff. It also included an architect, a contractor, and an independent member of that committee. Next slide, please. This is what we've done with state money over the last 10 years. You can see that we've doubled our tax base. The city gets the same amount of tax that we do. The state gets the same amount of tax the city does. So we've gone from $9 million a year in state tax now to approaching $20 million a year. We do that by investing in private sector partners. This is the San Diego model of tax incentive district, where everything is done with a private sector partner. I'm going to show you quickly who they are. Next slide. And then I'm going to get out of Brian's way. You see the leverage that we create with our investments. That's almost 10 times. In the time that I've been on the board, we've invested about $160 million, but the private sector's invested over $1 billion. And we are primarily the gap filler. We attract the commercial lenders. None of these projects get done without a bank. Downtown Tucson is very difficult to finance. We have found that Rio Nuevo's participation fills the gap that makes them creditworthy. And then the last slide is just our projects in the last year. Those are fun. I'll leave that with you. We've achieved a lot of notoriety for what we're doing, including the #2 food city in the United States, right behind New York. And I think my last slide is just a summary of our deals last year. Of all these deals, all but one of them is to a small local business. You'll notice that we participate on a bigger percentage with small businesses and a smaller percentage with big business. On a project of this scale, our contribution will be someplace in the 10 to 15% of the total cost range. This is very similar to what we've done with other hotel projects. I would like to introduce Brian Obie. Brian joined his father's billboard company, I think, when he was 11. This company went public. His retirement plan, however, was to become a hotel developer. They have a number of very successful projects that are very local, very activated, surrounded by retail, surrounded by pedestrian promenades. Mr. Obie is also the former mayor of Eugene, Oregon, and a member of their planning commission. So he's been really a delight to work with. Please meet Mr. Brian Obie.
Thank you, Fletcher. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm a legend before my time. I've never been introduced that way. Chairman and board, thank you for having us this morning. Irene Altucker is both a resident who has a home in Eugene, but also has a home here. And in many respects, that's what brings us here, as well as this particular site, this particular community, this particular downtown, because it is there to be done of what we do and what we enjoy doing, and the aspect of making a difference with the time that we have on this earth, and making a difference in the community and activating downtowns, if you will. And my role here today, what we like, is just to introduce you to us so that you have an understanding who we are and perhaps our ability to carry off this project. That site's been sitting, as I understand it, for nearly 40 years in the condition it is. And it is challenging, but we can do it. And we've done it before, and we will do it. Before I turn this over to Irene, I also want to thank Heath, Economic Development Director, as well as Fletcher. Both have put up with us for the last couple of years getting to this point. And while this maybe does represent the beginning, because today you're going to see renderings as to what we visualize going on the site for the first time that they've ever been seen in public. And we are honored to be able to show them, and Irene will be introducing those to you. Prior to that, I want to show you and talk a little bit about our company and some of the projects quickly that we've done, so you have just background in terms of who we are and perhaps our capability. The slide that is up now represents a project in Eugene. It is actually a half a block, much like this site that we're working on, although the site we're working on here in downtown is smaller, and the blocks are smaller and what have you. But it contains a very important element, and you'll see right in the center of it, an alley. And you will hear as our presentation here unfold how important that alley is and what it will mean to retail, et cetera, in downtown Tucson and to this particular site, and as we work through that. In this particular case, that alley has makers, if you will, on both sides of it that are local tenants. And in fact, if we're going to attract retail to downtown Tucson, it is going to be local. Well, that is who we can attract. That's who we will find to be part of this this project, without question. If Heath will go on to the next slide, I want to introduce you a small part of our team, our executive team. We actually have 200 people behind this, people that have worked on multiple projects that you will see have the capacity to do things. We're an innovative company. We believe in creativity. We're frankly into art in the presentation that we make to our guests and to the community, and that's kind of what we live for and involve. We're fortunate, frankly, to work with the Rio Nuevo for the last couple of years in their encouragement in bringing us along, as well as Swain, the architectural firm, Gensler, who is often here, but throughout the world, we brought them to the party, if you will, because of their reputation in creating centers of activity, centers of energy, because that's what we want to create in downtown Tucson. And that's what we've done elsewhere, and we will do here. Certainly, Swain is part, and Sun Construction has been part of helping us along. The next slide shows you our first project in Eugene some 15 years ago, first time we got in the hotel business, because it was a difficult time in 07 and 08, and we needed to fill some space, and we decided to build a hotel that would fill space in a marketplace that we have in Eugene. As it turned out, we built a hotel, was named one of the top 25 hotels in the country, and continues today. Small hotel, 69 rooms, guest-oriented place that draws people from many miles just for the experience of staying there. Middle of what we call the Fifth Street Market. The next slide shows the hotel in Boise, which was our second hotel. That's today's language, probably a $60 million hotel. When we built it, it was maybe a $40 million hotel. Unfortunately, as the costs have gone, it made it more difficult. But it's downtown Boise, and it made a difference there. And I would refer you to that community in terms of our relationship in working with them to make this happen, and the need they had at the time. And the next slide is really the Gordon Hotel in Eugene. We're going to talk a little more about that. It is part of the project, as will be part of this project. We are talking about building a destination. Well, an element of that certainly is a hotel, but there's retail elements that are local makers and artists that will draw people to downtown, and it will draw people, frankly, to the hotel. The next slide is a little better indication of that. You see the Gordon Hotel. Gordon is actually my dad, and Dad was an artist, and that's why we decided to name the hotel after him. He actually spent a good deal of his time here and in Mexico painting, as I acquired his interest in our company when he was 45 years old, and I paid him until his death when he was 98 years old. And for that company, but along the way, we're able to build a significant company that has a great depths and great people like Irene. On the left-hand side is a picture of the Gordon. You see the art on the exterior, not unlike what you see in downtown Tucson, if you will. But it will represent Tucson when it gets here. On the right is a lobby of that hotel. That is the ceiling you're looking at. Now, to some, it might look like crystal. To others, it looks a lot like mason jars, and about 3,000 of them. And that hotel, that lobby, and this is important, on any given Friday, Saturday night, perhaps other times of celebration, you cannot tell whether you're in a lounge, a bar, an activity center, or a hotel lobby, and that's what we love. That's what our guests love. That's why they come to it. That's why the community comes there. The next slide represents the alley that will be adjacent to the hotel that Irene will introduce you to. That will go between Scott and 6th. And with the Congress Street properties on one side and this new development hotel on the other. This alley will be a center for local purveyors of their goods. And this could be anywhere from from jewelry makers to jewelry sellers to artists to gift stores. It could be people that are one of the alley. We have a mom and a daughter that make clothes for kids, and another one that is a barber. And so that will be the tenants that wind up in the alley in Tucson, as they have here. It is obviously a center during the holidays, any holiday, not just the Christmas holidays, but it's also when we celebrate the rally in the alley when the Ducks are playing, perhaps Arizona on a Saturday, and every Friday night before those games, there's a rally in the alley. That is to bring the university, in that case, University of Oregon, downtown. That's our challenge. How do we bring that downtown to excite and utilize that asset to activate our downtown? Same opportunities here, and we will be chasing that opportunity and believe that we can do that. And we look forward to rallies in the alley in downtown Tucson. And we certainly have spent time already exploring that possibility and those connections with that, and our local partners will help us without doubt. The next slide is a project that actually our executive team had a groundbreaking slide in Corvallis, Oregon. We broke ground 4 months ago on that. It's an $80 million project. Downtown Corvallis on a river, community much smaller than Eugene, much smaller than Tucson, but it's both housing and a hotel and multiple restaurants related to that. It will be catalytic to downtown Corvallis without question. The next slide, a project we're going to break ground on in about 3 months in Eugene, called the Station House, adjacent to, much like here, but it's adjacent to a rail station that we also have a tenant in, a 100-plus-year-old building that this goes next to. And so it honors the past as well as the present. And that is also what we'll be doing in downtown Tucson. With that, I'd like to introduce Irene Altucker, who is so fond of Tucson, as we all have become, and to introduce you to the project in reality.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's an absolute honor to be here today. As has been mentioned, it's been a few years that we've been working on this, but I started coming to Tucson over 40 years ago, and several years ago, my husband and I purchased a home here. When I joined OB Companies 9 years ago, Brian said, what is it about Tucson? And is that something that we should consider about Tucson? And when Fletcher showed the list of Tucson successes, I think more and more people come to Tucson and fall in love with Tucson. So we embarked on, through my visits, to see whether there might be a place to develop in Tucson. Next slide. We looked for a criteria of what would be proximity to the university, what would be linking to the convention center, and what might be in the heart of downtown, near Hotel Congress. Previously, there used to be Hydra Boutique on the corner of Congress and Scott, a favorite of mine, and Johnny Gibson's Market. So that area was a real draw. Little did I know, next slide, that Rio Nuevo would put out this RFP and request for proposals. And so I brought it to the OB team and said, here is a project that we should consider. We brought our president of hospitality down here to visit Tucson and explore about what it is about Tucson that makes it so special. And when Rio Nuevo put out this request for proposal of a vacant lot to be studied, we provided an outline of what we anticipated would be and could be built here. After receiving the exclusive negotiating agreement, we took on months and now years of studies, of market studies, of architectural studies, of financial studies, to determine what would have the most success. And we also talked to a lot of Tucsonians. What is it that you would like to see downtown? And overwhelmingly, it was retail and vibrancy and a similar venue to our alley, our 5th Street Market alley. So, next slide. We have landed and are presenting to you today the Tucson Inn and Market. It's unusual where you have a hotelier who has so much focus on retail. In the slide that Brian showed you of the first hotel in at the 5th in Eugene, right in the lobby is the Pendleton store. That is the highest grossing Pendleton store in all of their stores. The link to the hotel, people visiting the hotel, go right into the Pendleton store. We understand the link between visitors and hotels and retail and the success and impact it can have. We have designed this hotel so that the ground floor is retail and that we are paying attention to the neighborhood. Next slide. This is an important concept from us as developers to understand the neighborhood with which we are going to be in. That Miss Saigon is right across the street. That Johnny Gibson's Market that is being transformed to the food hall and event space and the market on the corner. That the Chicago Music Store and the stores on Congress and the restaurant that will soon open on the corner of Scott and Congress, the Cornish Pasties, this is going to be a draw. And it will build upon the success that I experienced just this past weekend in downtown Tucson. It is a vibrant place in the evening. People going to the music venues, people going to Hotel Congress. It was wonderful to be in downtown Tucson. We will build upon that. So the next slide will be, this is the initial rendering. What I want to caution you all is that with OB companies, we continue to develop and refine until we get exactly the right building. So we will take elements of this and build upon this. This is not what will be built, but this is our first rendering of what it will, the elements, the rooftop pool bar, the pool for the hotel guests, the ground floor retail, the interaction with the Broadway Street and the streetcar that goes by. So all these elements will be built upon and refined so that it is just an iconic place that people will go to both as hotel guests and want to and be driven and desired to go into the retail in the ground floor. It is exciting, and to look at this and understand how many hours of time and feedback and renderings took to get to this. It's a pleasure to bring it before you, and Brian is going to talk a little bit more about how we are going to build upon this and bring an alley to the area between Broadway and Congress.
Thank you, Irene. The what's that? Next slide, please, Heath. Thank you for putting up with us. This is a view, if you're standing perhaps across the street from the Gibson Market, this is what you'd be looking at, and looking down this alley to the Tucson Inn and Market. On each side of that, we've talked about, there will be retailers of various sizes, but we know for certain there will be multiple retailers where if you have an idea and will make a commitment for $500-600 a month, and for the first time in your life, you think you can build and sell toys, you can do it here. Or if you can create jewelry, you can do it here. Or if you're a first-time barber, you can do it here. And that's what this is about. And you'll see this alley lined with that. But there'll also be food venues with, whether it's toys or tortillas, it matters not to us, except we want a mixture of tenants that will attract people here and also, frankly, attract people to this hotel. That's why this hotel will be successful, is that the relationship it has with that. You can see a bandstand here in the corner. We got work to do on this. There's no question about it. And how wide it's going to be and how the Congress Street properties that are historic are going to relate on their backside to this alley. We've got the owners in the audience here today, and we had great partners that will be working later today on that relationship, and have worked on it for many months so that we can activate both sides of that alley and, frankly, those buildings in the downtown in a significant way. Our guests will find a great pleasure. And then our last slide I wanted you to see was to some extent the ground floor. The pink areas are retail. Those are those small spaces we talk about along the alley. And again, as I mentioned, we do have work to do. And as we move forward on this schedule, we will probably get into definitive architecture next April, May, and generally in that area. Move to structural architecture, engineering, et cetera, take over the next year, permits, et cetera, and hopefully be underway in 2027 in terms of actually construction going on. So, we're excited about it. We've taken a lot of your time. You've got a big agenda, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your patience. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Christie.
It sounds like a terrific project, and we're glad you're investing into downtown Tucson, because this appears that it's going to be a real winner. I do want to ask a question to Mr. McCusker regarding Rio Nuevo activities.
I think he's more of a legend here than I am.
Could you illuminate us or expand a little bit briefly about the Rio Nuevo's restrictions on engaging in any type of affordable housing or public housing subsidies or anything of that nature, and what the core mission is by law and by legislation regarding Rio Nuevo is?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Christie. The Stadium District is the statute that limits us and provides our statutory mandate. We are by law an entertainment district. It's focused on the convention center. The original Rio Nuevo, you may remember, was going to build a new arena that collapsed in on itself due to the incompetence of the original Rio Nuevo. But the legislation provides that we can invest in and nurture things in the immediate area that nurture and promote and provide pedestrian traffic to the convention center. That's primarily why we have focused on food and beverage. That opening slide that I showed 10 years ago, none of that existed. And we say, but for Rio Nuevo, none of those places would exist today. We've opened 45 restaurants. We've opened 5 hotels. All of them have been enabled by state funds. I couldn't build an affordable housing complex if I wanted to. We have looked at residential. We have invested in residential. The Bautista is a good example on the far west side.
If I could interject just for a second, I think we're getting a little beyond the agenda item, which was presentation by Obi Companies and Rio Nuevo on proposal to develop county-owned property at 75 East Broadway. We're also getting up against another time-certain item.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Just a final note about where we go from here. This is the first introduction. We will see a similar presentation in our meeting today while you're doing your joint meeting with the city. We will begin negotiating the agreement. What we have from the county right now is an option to lease and purchase this. So we will provide you notice of our intent to exercise that, and it'll work through your staff, legal, and county, probably over the next few months.
And the county administrator has a memo attached to this item that lays out that timeline as well. But Supervisor Allen had a question or comment.
I did. Thank you all for being here for the proposal. And we're tight on time, so I'll just get right to it. There are three things that I think are important to me as we think about developments and investments in our downtown. One, given the extremities of our climate, I think it is important to strive for LEED certification and at a minimum, working towards energy efficiency, towards low water use, et cetera, building materials that are sustainable. Second, and we have representatives in the audience today from Local 469, I think utilizing as much as possible the trade unions in construction, I think is important for strengthening our community and strengthening our families. And then the third, I love the integration of art in the facilities and just encouraging the collaboration with local artists, of which we have many, and they are wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? All right. Thank you very much for being so generous with your time. We are very much looking forward to seeing how this project moves forward.
Thank you for your generosity. It is an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
All right. Supervisor Cano had requested that we hear addendum item number 6 at 10:30. So I'll turn it over to Supervisor Cano.
Mr. Chair, do we have another time certain after this?
We do at 11 o'clock, and then we have another one at 11:20.
Okay. I would, if the board is okay with this, so I know we have members of the public who would like to address the board for call to the audience, can we kind of space it out and perhaps at 10:45 we'll circle back on one Pima?
Sure.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. And while you're on that topic, Supervisor, I know that a lot of our audience members, including people who signed up for call to the public, are here with particular interest in addendum number 5, which is short-term crisis and emergency resources grant program. Seeing a lot of nods. So I just want you to know we will consider that item before we recess to go across the street for our joint meeting with the city. Also, I know that there's a significant number of people who are here for agenda item number 15, which is the resolution opposing executive overreach. Seeing more nods. We will also consider that item before we break to go across the street for our joint meeting with the city. I know we also have people here for hearings. I'm going to try and squeeze all those things in along with call to the public. We'll see if we'll see how much of that we get done. But let's and Supervisor Cano, thank you for your graciousness. Let's hear from a couple more of our call to the public speakers. The next 3 speakers are Phineas Anderson, Daniel Batirez, and Tracy Solis. You're welcome to come to the front so that you're here when it's your turn to speak. Mr. Anderson, you have 2 minutes, sir.
Yep. Thank you, Supervisor Allen, for putting this on the agenda. The resolution I submitted to you many months ago is directed to Americans such as yourself who want to preserve our country as our founders intended. Associate Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell, appointed by Richard Nixon, believes strongly in an even balance of power between the branches of the federal government. He was once asked, what happened if the executive branch dominated the other branches? And he said, and I quote, "It could be the end of our Constitution," meaning we could end up with a government run by a despot rather than a government run by the people. Adelita Grijalvo, at her swearing in last Wednesday, and I quote, "What is most concerning to me is what the majority in this body has failed to do, hold Trump accountable as a co-equal branch of government that we are. Trump's threat to our democracy is a very serious matter. He has immunity. He has eliminated all the guardrails. He pardons seditionists and felons. He is doing everything he can to suppress the vote and rig the results of the upcoming midterms. He ignores the courts and its congustural enablers do his bidding. By passing this resolution, you're staying up and fighting for our Constitution, and doing so, you will be setting an example for other counties in Arizona to follow you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Steve, I came before here last year, September, and I brought to the attention of the board that they had set $400,000 aside for the homeless in our community and $20 million to bring homeless from all over the world, put them up in housing, feed them, clothe them. Well, we have citizens dying in the streets here, our own people dying in the streets. One of them happens to be last Saturday, not this past Saturday, Saturday before, my own sister, who I have to go now with the children of my family and explain to them why we have to pull life support off of them. She is my passion. She's why I am such an advocate for the homeless. And I would like to see us do it better and help them. I've given you all a plan. I've handed to you that I have put together to help the homeless. And I'd just like you all to read over it. If you have questions, reach out to me. I will help you. But this is something that matters very dear to me. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Ms. Solis?
Hello, thank you for having me. I apologize, my nerves are a little on edge here, but I am homeless currently, and you would never know, would you? Not the way I look. There are a lot of people where I'm...
You might want to move the mic closer.
Sorry. There's a lot of people where I'm staying at right now, the Salvation Army Hospitality House, a place where my parents and I, as a young child, went to volunteer and help too. Our community is really important to us, and I feel like if we reprioritize funds properly where they need to be, we can resolve all of this. There is a BMX bike track that's about to be built. Is that necessary? The question. Is the hotel that they talked about that will be so beautifully erected, is that necessary? We have a bunch of abandoned buildings that are here in town that we can utilize to help the homeless get off the streets. We can also take the art installations that we have that are coming up and pause them. Let the colleges put those in their curriculums so that the students can show everyone what they have learned in the colleges that we have funded. Let them show us that we can do this. We also have so many things that the casino that I've heard that is coming that could be utilized in a different way. People say that the reason why sorry about that. People say the reason why our homelessness is so hard is because of the drug use. I am not a drug user. There are so many people and women that I am staying with that are not substance abuse people. We are just down on our luck. I have heard that this is a landlord town. That is not right. I got evicted unfairly for false advertisement. I've been evicted before.
That was your time, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Let's do a couple more call to the public speakers. Rebecca Ursula and Christina Early. Rebecca?
Good morning, Chair and Chair Scott and board members. Thank you for having me
and giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Rebecca Ersel, and I originally come from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I lived in Tucson for about 3 years now. When my family and I first arrived, we relied on food stamps and housing support for quite a number of months. When we started working, all that assistance was cut off, making the transition extremely difficult as we adjusted to a completely new system. Over 75% of refugees who arrive in the United States come without being fluent in English, and many of us communicating, reading, and finding a job is incredibly difficult and challenging. In my family, those of us who were 18 years or older were told to focus solely on working, not school, but we refused to give up on education. We chose to work and study at the same time. Now, 3 years I will be graduating in May 2026. When I talk to so many other refugees who have been here longer, for more than 5 years, many say they never pursued school or education because things were so difficult financially. Most refugees work minimum wage jobs, and single income cannot cover most of their basic needs. What breaks my heart is seeing how government cuts to SNAP benefits are impacting newly arrived refugees and asylum seekers. When we are in refugee camps, we are told so many great things about this country. No one prepares you for the realities. Imagine coming to a new country, hoping for safety and opportunities, and finding that you do not have those opportunities and even what to eat. How would you feel? How long will it take you to recover from that? To everyone listening here today, even if these changes or challenges do not affect you personally, when people in your community struggle, it affects you. It affects everybody. I urge you to consider agenda item 4 and 5. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, Chairman Scott, Board Supervisors, Administrator, and Clerk. I'm Christina Early, Board Chair of Ishkashita Refugee Network. I'm standing in for our vivacious Executive Director, Barbara Eisworth, which y'all know. I'm here to thank you for the proposal we're discussing today to address the cruel reality we in the refugee assistance community are dealing with, even after the reopening of the federal government and the renewal of SNAP benefits. Let this sink in. Refugees in our community with less than 5 years of being here will no longer have access to those benefits. This past Friday, I had a mother of 4 tell me, no food at home, no money on my card. This proposal, the STRAP proposal, is a starting point. I understand that. I also understand that it's short term. This proposal gratefully adds that flexibility that's needed for this very fluid situation. However, it's not short term for the refugees. I ask you, as you consider this proposal, to include a way, I'm not tall enough, a way to continue the monies even after this initial funding. Refugees add to our community. They work those jobs that not everybody wants to work. They pay taxes. They're looking for a place to have their families to be safe. They're looking for a community, and Tucson is the perfect place for them to be, and they deserve our support. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Early. Okay, it is now 10:45, and Supervisor Cano, again, thank you for your offer to extend the time certain item that you had requested to this time, so I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Colleagues, today I'm introducing the One Pima initiative. This is a coordinated, evidence-based plan built over the last several weeks with county administration and shaped by what we're hearing from families, neighborhoods, housing advocates, and small businesses. People want safety along the Chuck Huckleberry Loop. They want real treatment options, and they want visible action from their county government. One Pima is our response. This plan brings together the critical work that we already fund, not new spending, into one unified strategy. First, it accelerates loop cleanup by reaffirming the $750,000 already approved in our FY26 budget, and it directs the county administrator to complete system-wide wash and trail cleanup along the loop before April of next year. It also launches a loop safety plan with QR-coded markers, upgraded lighting options, and real-time reporting tools so that we can respond to emergencies faster and more effectively. Those recommendations as part of the One Pima plan will come back to the board for approval at a later time. Second, this proposal strengthens our treatment system by expanding the transition center to 7-day operations, maintaining more than $14 million in public health and overdose prevention programs, and supporting proven diversion models that we've all heard about on this board, the DTAP program with the county attorney, the STEPS program with Superior Court. These programs save lives and reduce recidivism. Third, the plan reaffirms our commitment as a region to affordable housing investments. We've invested over $60 million since 2020, and it moves us toward a regional shelter capacity platform that will lower barriers for our unsheltered neighbors. We've heard issues, Chair Scott, about pets and storage and access to basic services that are reasons for why folks are not going to shelters, and we need to do a better job coordinating as a region. And finally, One Pima brings neighborhood-driven reinvestment strategy for the West Side communities closest to our jail and our treatment corridors, using existing capital planning capacity and guided by resident input. The public is asking for coordinated action. One Pima delivers a roadmap, real timelines, and measurable outcomes, all without any new FY26 costs. This proposal is meant for all of us to have some wins and to celebrate one coordinated strategy under one plan. I want to thank the incredible staff who have helped influence this, and especially neighborhood advocates who have asked for this type of plan. I am curious to hear how the board can consider making One Pima a document that they too can support. And in conversations through our offices, I do want to offer that we approve item number 6, resolution number 25-56, and establish the One Pima initiative with the following changes. Removal of item 1B on page 8. On page 12, the recommendation to have $50,000 for the neighborhood reinvestment strategy be changed from $50,000 to $25,000. And in that same page, Chair Scott, the same bullet, there is a sentence that suggests that we would be having up to $2 million go toward the neighborhood reinvestment strategy. I'd like to see that removed from the One Pima initiative for further consideration by the board. But those 3 changes bring us closer to this being a unified proposal, and I will provide the board and the county attorney with the edited document based on those changes after this meeting.
Supervisor Cano is moving the item as amended. Is the clerk clear on the amendments? I will second the motion. Discussion by the board. Supervisor Christie.
Yeah, I think I would like to ask the county administrator if there would be a possible analysis of the costs involved in this proposal. Particularly, I believe we needed an analysis to ensure that opioid settlement money can be used for this, and a projection of the ongoing expense and impact this program would have on the county's general fund, and an additional analysis on the City of Tucson's efforts in this county proposal, particularly the city's contribution in the Silver Lake Mission Reinvestment Zone. These are strictly city properties and city areas, and Ms. Lesher, to make such an analysis, how long would that require?
Administrator Lesher.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Christie, as I understand when Pima before you, I think that everything you're asking for is embedded in this document as recommendations that we look at what's in this year and then what are the plans for next year. I don't recall the specific dates, but there are times where we are to return with plans to show what the impact would be on next year's budget. So I think that providing this analysis, we'd be happy to do, and it is consistent with the requests that are embedded in this document, I believe.
So what you're saying is that you have to read the document before you know the analysis?
No, sir. Chair Scott, Supervisor Christie, we have read it. What I've indicated is that within this document is the request that staff do all the analysis that you have suggested. I do believe, and what I've looked at is that, as been indicated, everything that is noted as expenditure for this year is currently in this year's budget. So I don't see that we will be spending additional funds. We may need to, which I'm aware at this point for this fiscal year. What this does ask is that we look forward to what would be in the next fiscal year, which would be brought forward for consideration in that budget for final adoption by this board. So happy to provide that analysis.
So are we approving this plan today, or are we moving it forward for the additional analysis you just described?
So let's have Supervisor.
That's fine. Let me just talk. I have a couple more questions for the administrator. So you could tell us with certainty that this can be paid for with the opioid settlement.
Chair Scott, Supervisor Christie, there are different elements of this plan, some of which can be addressed with the opioid dollars, some of which can be addressed with other funds, some of which are all, for the current year, all in the budget. As we look at next year, there may be funding opportunities through the opioid dollars. There may be other dollars. I can't tell you that every element described in here will be covered by opioid dollars, but many of them can be.
And those that won't be would have to be taken out of the general fund? Do we know what the impact of that money being withdrawn from the general fund is?
We know for this year because it's already in the budget, sir. What we're looking at is, I said, the only part that I think is that analysis, that there's direction for us to look at. If approved by the board, this will be included in next year's budget, and we would be bringing those elements back for consideration by the board.
And can you tell the board, Ms. Lesher, what the City of Tucson's contribution to this will be?
Chair Scott, Supervisor Christie, I think you've seen the City's Safe City proposal, and I think for additional granularity, frankly, on what they're doing and we're doing is the topic for the joint meeting, which will occur at 12:30 today.
Well, I appreciate that you're very confident that these items will be covered financially, but I don't have that same confidence, and I firmly believe that there should be a more in-depth analysis, particularly with the opioid settlement. You yourself said you're not certain which elements of the opioid settlement will cover this and which will not. I don't feel comfortable with taking money out of the general fund without an impact analysis. And I'd like to know what our partners in the City of Tucson are going to be providing for this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Christie. Supervisor Cano.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Supervisor Christie, the One Pima plan expands the transition center from 5 days to 7 days. We've received a memorandum from the county administrator making that suggestion, and the opioid settlement dollars are the funding source for that proposal. The City of Tucson has committed to supporting an additional FTE as part of this commitment. The Safer Center is a sobering alternative for recovery center, is a pilot program on today's agenda, actually, and is also being funded through opioid settlement dollars. The proposal that is before you, Supervisor Christie, was meant to have the taxpayer in mind and fiscal conservatives in mind, because this is a funded plan. And we will have a conversation this afternoon about what the city and the county will do together. I am viewing this from the perspective of the county only. And as it relates to the reinvestment zone that you mentioned, yes, of course it is within city property, but we are the landlord of the Pima County Jail. We are the landlord of the Transition Center, our annex building, and the Fleet Services building. Basically, all of that property next to a mountain is not only within the City of Tucson, they are county properties. We are the landlord. And so as we talk about ways to increase treatment, as we talk about opportunities to support our unsheltered, I am not going to have a conversation unless we invest in the vicinity to be able to ensure that that beautification reinvestment strategy is there. And the city is going to remain an instrumental part of that, because I expect to have joint cooperation in the master plan for that entire region. But as the landlord, I do think we have a little bit of a say in that. And last but not least, I am so grateful for the steps that we have taken to make sure that we are signaling to the public that we're taking treatment seriously. Two of the most impactful programs that we have as a county, you've heard about them on this dais, are the Drug Treatment Alternative to Prison program with the county attorney. This calls on us to renew our commitment when board recommendations for the budget come in, that we support more people through that program, taking people away from jail, putting them into treatment and into diversion programs. And it's the same proposal, Chair Scott, with the STEPS program that all of our presiding judges at Superior Court and our judges at Superior Court have indicated is a worthy investment because it actually saves taxpayer dollars, gets people out of our justice system and into the treatment and diversion programs that they need. And so I hope that those answer your question, Supervisor Christie.
One last question, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
Supervisor Cano. Could you tell us where the Silver Lake Mission Reinvestment Zone is located in the supervisoral district?
Yes, that is in District 5.
And that is your district?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No more questions.
Thank you, Supervisor Christie. Any other questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Allen.
Well, first of all, I want to say an enormous thank you to Supervisor Cano and his team and the administration for working to pull this together. I think this is an incredibly helpful compilation that it puts in one place the many layers of services and programs that the county has propped up that serves our community around substance use disorder, housing, mental health treatment, how it connects to the criminal justice system that the county supports. I think it's a much needed and very timely process. So thank you for doing it. It was not an easy lift. I wanted to just a couple things that I think are so important within it that I think are really important. So one is that it lifts up something that we did during COVID, which was to keep a running tally of shelter beds, of available shelter beds. During the COVID crisis, we knew where beds were across city and county lines, and could then, as folks came to, whether it was our offices or went to one program or another, we knew where we could direct people, we knew where there was availability, and that has since kind of fallen to the side. I think resuming that is incredibly important. One thing that I would want to think about how to add in would be doing something comparable for detox beds, as well as longer-term recovery beds, so that we know at any given moment when somebody is ready to go into detox, that we know where there is availability. And when somebody comes out of detox and wants to make the shift to recovery, we know where there is availability. And that knowledge, that understanding of where there's availability should be able to cross, whether it's a city program or a county program. So that would be one kind of addition that I'd want to figure out where we could weave into this plan. Yeah, with that, I'm very excited that's put together, and thank you again.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Well, Supervisor Cano, I was pleased to second approval of this initiative, and Supervisor Allen, I appreciate that you used the word compilation in describing the initiative, because it really is a systemic way of looking at budgeted items that this board has already committed to, but what we're being asked to do by you putting this together is make a long-term, a sustained commitment to programs that are going to help address a lot of difficult issues in this community. And I just want to, with specific reference to the DTAP and STEPS program, let my colleagues know that when we've had our justice system partner meetings that Mayor Romero and I have convened with representatives from the courts, the police and sheriff's department, and the city and county attorney's offices, expansion of those programs so that we can get more people who get involved in the justice system the kind of help that they need for dealing with addiction. Expansion of those programs is something that has been advocated for by the courts, by law enforcement, by prosecutors. And I want to especially thank the presiding judge of Superior Court, Judge Lipsky, for the dialogue that she is encouraging amongst the courts, law enforcement, and the prosecutors. But I think this action by the board shows our level of commitment. And I really appreciate the questions that Supervisor Christie had, because as the county administrator pointed out in response to his inquiries, while we are making a commitment to these items through this initiative, as part of the budgetary process, we will revisit them, and we can revisit them one by one if necessary. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? All right, all those in favor of adopting the item as amended indicate by saying aye. 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 Any opposed?
Opposed.
Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Christie opposed. We had another time certain item. This was at 11 o'clock, and this is with regard to American Battery Factory. What's the item number again? I'm sorry, thank you. This is item number 29 under real property, and I will turn it over to the county administrator to introduce the item and our guests.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And if I will point out, I think it was December of 2022 when it was a day in which we had I think it was a 12-0 unanimous vote of representatives from both the city and the county. And what we have today is simply an amendment to the lease purchase agreement. We do have staff here from Economic Development, Mr. DeBonis, and representing American Battery Factory today too. Mr. Khan, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lesher. And just preparatory to our conversation, I will move item number 29.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded. Was that Supervisor Hines? All right, thank you. Moved and seconded by Supervisor Hines. And then, Mr. Kem, any comments that you want to share with the board preparatory to our vote?
I would just like to add in that great being here today. Great to see you all. We continue to work aggressively to bring this project to fruition. We asked you previously to change some of the timeline, and that's what we're back here asking for today formally. The staff's been very supportive in trying to figure out the details and make sure it all works right. But essentially, this has been driven by a combination of things, really just a delay in the full funding we need for our project. It's about a $525 million initial project and eventually $2 billion. And for lots of different reasons, I'm happy to answer questions about it related partially to tariffs, partially to the full funding, partially to kind of some of the rules during the Biden administration and the rules during the Trump administration. As the financing people work through those differences, it's just kept things delayed a little bit. But we're aggressively about to get the full funding, we think, between now and Christmas or maybe early January. And we need this timeline so we can bring the full production to bear. And we will have initial production in late 27 and then full monthly production in 28. And so this really just kind of extends the current plan we have with you all. It adds in inflationary, things to the lease payment, all those things to support the county.
Well, I want to thank you for meeting with me, and I think you met with all members of the board.
Most of the board.
Most
one
of the
or two
board.
weren't available.
And also want to thank the county administrator for the detailed and comprehensive memorandum that we received. And I know that staff from our economic development department worked hard on that memorandum with all the timelines and all the reasons for the request of this amendment. Any questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. Could you remind all of us as to exactly how much water will be used in your operations?
I'm happy to provide you the exact numbers through the staff after this, when this is done. But effectively, we're not a huge water user. An example I would give you would be, I'll give you quick numbers off the top of my head. For just having people on site, 300 people on site, requires you to have about 6,000 gallons a day. Now that goes through the regular toilets and all the processing that happens with regular things. In addition to that, we use about double that for deionized water every day. Deionized just means they take out the calcium and magnesium because that affects the chemistry of the cells. But that isn't lost. That's mostly recycled. In some places, it's evaporated off because it's safe and you don't want to have to put calcium magnesium back into the system. So we're not a huge water user. In the end, we're about 20,000 gallons a day in the aggregate for a very huge factory. The few places we do have water we use, but they're on recycled systems because for refrigeration and everything else, you don't want to vent that water.
Mr. Chair, so all of your operations combined, employees, product, R&D, and all of the ancillary activities to provide the product is 20,000?
It's about 20,000 gallons a day, but I'll provide the exact details to you all. One of the hard parts is for the initial turning the factory on, when you're putting them into these closed systems, there's water in part in that, so we have those details. But once we're in operation, the day-to-day burn of water, I would like a better term, is in that ballpark.
And you have any idea as to the initial water used to put those?
I do. I can provide that to you.
Off the top of your head?
It's probably an initial 500,000 gallons to fill the factory.
500,000 gallons. And that then would descend.
And then most of that is recycled. There's always a little bit of a loss in processing systems, but essentially new water, and then it goes into the discharge system is what the initial numbers I gave.
So what do you think the day-to-day burn of water is?
I would say about 25,000, 30,000 gallons a day.
25,000 to 30,000 a day.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other questions or comments from board members? All those in favor of...
Chair Scott, this is Carmine DeBonis in the back. Sorry to interrupt. And there was one item that is inconsistent between two sections of the agreement. I just want to get on record that in section 1.1.3, there is the correct date of June 1st, 2028. In section 1.1.2, it states July 1, 2028. So 1.1.2 should include that June 1st, 2028 date. And apologies for interrupting you like that.
Not at all, Mr. DeBonis. Thank you. Did the clerk make note of all those? Thank you.
And we're fine with the correct date of 1 June 2028.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kim. All in favor of, Supervisor Allen, did you have a question? I apologize.
I have one question,
Please.
and the agreements around this were all developed before my time, and I don't recall if I mentioned this when we met a couple of weeks ago. But I am curious whether or not there has been any agreement to use union labor as part of the construction process, if that was part of the initial negotiations.
Yeah, so in the initial negotiations, it doesn't formally require it. Right. I know in the end we will be doing that. The challenge for us is we're not, based on the financing deal we're doing, we're not sure if we or somebody else gets to pick who the actual construction contractor is at this point. We'll know it shortly, and so that can drive some of that. But when we do this, when they're finally selected, then we'll be able to work through some of that.
Okay, I hope that happens.
Thank you, Supervisor. And Supervisor Hines, I need to revise my motion to approve as amended. Is that suitable to you?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor of approving item number 29 as amended indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 5-0. Mr. Kem, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Vescovi-Chiordi, thank you, sir. And Mr. DeBonis. All right. We're going to have another time-certain item requested by Supervisor Allen at 11:20. In the interim, Supervisor Allen, I was wondering if I could go ahead and turn to you for agenda item number 15, which you also put on the agenda. And I know that there are a lot of people in the audience who are interested in that. So if you wanted to move approval of agenda item number 15, I would second that.
Yes, we'd like to move item number 15, which is resolution number 2025-52, opposing executive overreach, supporting the U.S. Constitution, and defending our democracy.
Now second. Supervisor.
So I wanted to, this is a resolution. I wanted to very quickly read the resolution. This is the resolution 2025-52 of the Pima County Board of Supervisors opposing executive overreach, supporting the U.S. Constitution, and defending our democracy. And pardon my speed, we are late on time. Whereas the Pima County Board of Supervisors maintains that the U.S. Constitution is the basis for our democratic republic and our civil society. Whereas the first three articles of the U.S. Constitution establish three separate but equal branches of the U.S. government. Whereas the Pima County Board of Supervisors has witnessed the consolidation of power in the executive branch by executive orders and actions such as but not limited to the revocation of birthright citizenship, the freezing of federal spending approved by Congress, shuttering of federal agencies, demonstrating a pattern of usurping the duties of the legislative branch, violating due process of persons in the United States, infringing upon civil service protections for federal employees, threatening deportation and/or prosecution based on political views, ignoring or disobeying judicial mandates, politicizing law enforcement and the military, and generally expressing contempt for the separation of powers, freedom of speech, and equal justice under the law. Whereas the Attorney General's office has filed 28 federal action lawsuits that include protecting the rule of law and the U.S. Constitution on behalf of Arizonans, with Pima County joining 2 additional lawsuits. Whereas each member of the Pima County Board of Supervisors swears an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and thus has a duty to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution and the rights of residents within their jurisdiction that are being harmed by violations of the U.S. Constitution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Pima County Board of Supervisors strongly urges the United States congressional delegation of the state of Arizona to take the lead in pressing their colleagues to stand up and reclaim their constitutional duty to be an equal partner in the administration of the U.S. government, to work hand in hand with the judicial branch to ensure that the U.S. Constitution is not violated by the executive branch, and to ensure that illegal or unconstitutional actions that have occurred are overturned. Passed and adopted, hopefully today. This resolution, I first want to thank Phineas Anderson, his wife, and others in the community who have been pulling this together, pushing us to step up and move this forward. Mr. Anderson and his wife started the Take Down Tesla protests, and as a great example of executive overreach, President Trump has declared anyone who protests at Tesla sites is a domestic terrorist. Versions of this resolution have been considered in 84 jurisdictions in 22 states. So I really appreciate the ongoing resistance our community continues to show in standing up for the integrity of our Constitution and the integrity of our country. So with that, I would move the item.
Well, we already did that.
Oh.
We moved
Well,
and
thank
seconded it, but thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay. All right. All those in favor of adopting the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Christie opposed. All right, and we are going to return to call to the public, but if you signed up to speak to that agenda item, just know that it's been passed, and that might be something that you might want to take into consideration. Supervisor Allen had another time certain item at 11:20, but I'm going to ask if we can, before we get to that, consider addendum item number 5. Because there is a significant number of members of the audience who are interested in that item and who signed up for call to the public to talk about it. This is a short-term crisis and emergency resources grant program. I will move addendum item number 5.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Supervisor Hines. I'm going to ask the county administrator if she can lay out the parameters of this program, and how it was developed by staff. And before doing so, I want to thank her and her team for putting this together because the board had taken up some similar items at our last meeting. We continued them until the first meeting in December. So for you and your team, Ms. Lesher, to have something for us to consider 2 weeks after our last action is appreciated and commendable.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and I think what staff heard from all of you at the last meeting, as well as from the community, is that we needed a way to respond very quickly to some of the need within the community. While I think the government shutdown might have been something that caused us to recognize some urgency, I think the additional recognition is that there is always some emergent need in our community. What we hope to do with this is to ask the board to establish the short-term crisis and emergency resources grant that will be funded through the remainder of this year by taking 10% of what we believe is the additional carry forward for the year. We had budgeted some carry forward. It appears that with revenues coming in higher and expenditures lower, that we will have about 8.3 million additional capacity. We are targeting 10% of that for this fund, or $838,000, with the understanding, I believe, we'd be looking at what we have heard from the board is the request that we maintain a program like this and bring it forward as an item in next year's budget. The idea is that it would be, it's a one-page form that agencies that are in need of crisis assistance can apply very quickly. It can move very quickly. All of those applications would be reviewed by the outside agency committee, and then we would be bringing back recommendations to this board by December 16th. There's 4 service categories that we're proposing at this point, with food assistance, housing and utility support, transportation, and medical expenses or related needs. We've been recommending a minimum award of $25,000, a maximum award of $75,000. And again, additional criteria going through this, which then the evaluation would be based on urgency and readiness, alignment with county priorities, capacity and track record, and budget clarity and justification. If approved today, we will go live, if you will, with the program tomorrow. Applications would be available online tomorrow. They will be due by 5 p.m. on December 3rd. The outside agency Citizens Review Committee, which is comprised of representatives appointed by each of you, will review those, make recommendations, and we will be back to the board for consideration of those recommendations and the allocation of the funds on December 16th. And I will turn to the staff to see if there's additional. I'm getting a thumbs up, so that's it for now. Thank you.
Ms. Lesher, thank you. Questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Cano.
Thank you, Chair Scott. Administrator Lesher, is our intention to distribute all of the dollars in the timeline presented December 16th, or are we going to half the appropriation? What's your
Chair Scott, Supervisor Cano, we've not reviewed that. So we'd be looking for any kind of direction from the board that might be available, and through the outside agency review committee. What they have done historically with some of the other funds available is hold back a little bit of money so that there are additional opportunities down the road. And what we'll do is meet with the commission, encourage you to have a conversation with your appointees as well, and see how we might want to allocate those funds.
Thank you, Administrator Lesher. I'm curious what further input will be from my colleagues as to whether they would like 2 buckets or 1. I'm indifferent about it, but I just think it's smarter planning for us to perhaps try a spring and ask our outside agency if that's a process that they like to see or not. Most importantly, I wanted to thank my colleague from District 2, Supervisor Hines, for his initial proposal at our last meeting, getting us to this point today. We are, of course, responding to emergency needs in our community as a result of federal cuts, and without the leadership from District 2, this proposal might not have made it onto today's agenda. And so I want to say thank you. I look forward to our county resources being dispatched to the most critical lifelines of our community that need our investment. And I wholeheartedly endorse this proposal. I want to thank the county administrator and just say that this is exactly the kind of government that people believe and want at this moment right now, because this is this is what we're faced with lots of decisions and limited resources. So just want to say thanks. I look forward to supporting the item.
Thank you, Supervisor Cano. Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Hines.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I actually have a couple of questions for staff. I think the 10% number, was that just arbitrary, or was there a specific reasoning behind that? Because I was hoping maybe we could do a little more.
Chair Scott and Supervisor Hines, we have been looking, as you know, conversing regularly with the board about what we think is going to be a difficult financial year. And while those were funds we had not anticipated moving into the budget, we felt that 10% was a very conservative estimate of what we could allocate for the fund at this time. If there may be one of the ways to address the question of funds now and funds for a second tranche or a second bucket might be to allocate another small amount of those dollars. Know that as we began to look at projections for next year, I think it's going to be another difficult year for the county and for the community, and we felt it wiser to be conservative and see that there might be funds down the road available. We can always come back and refill the bucket at any time from the board's direction.
Okay, great. And then I believe the current process with regard to outside agency funding, every agency is allowed to apply for more than one specific program or project. And I think the language is a little unclear. I just want to, if we need to amend it, I would like to do so to make sure that it's not one entity or agency can only seek $75,000 maximum. That's it. Because just like with outside agency funding, you could have a food bank or whatever having 3, 4, 5, 6 different good programs, projects, and they should be able to apply for all those. They shouldn't be capped as an agency. I just wanted to clarify, was that the intent of the language, or should we amend this?
And Chair Scott, thank you, Chair Scott and Supervisor Hines. The intent is to mirror that of the outside agency program, which is that the cap is by program, not by agency. So we can make sure that that's clarified here. There can be agencies, as you point out, that are large and have multiple programs.
Great, good. And then lastly, Mr. Chair, and this actually might just be I think probably for my colleagues, but I would like to hear your thoughts on including as qualifying for funding programs that would help to provide legal services, low cost or no cost to individuals, or potentially subsidizing federal government application fees, or to make these categories allowable as long as those specific services would get a resident the ability to access food assistance, rental assistance, healthcare, et cetera. If my colleagues would consider making that amendment or opining, that would be great.
Administrator Lesher, responding to Supervisor Hines's inquiry, as the program is set up, especially since it's set up for people who are agencies that are already receiving assistance and support through the county, through the Community and Workforce Development Department. Based on the inquiries from my colleague, would we be able to take that kind of action as the program's configured?
Thank you, Chair Scott. There are organizations that provide those functions that are receiving funding now. I think we could easily add an additional bullet just to clarify the service categories. And if one is help us wordsmith from the dais, but an additional bullet that is to provide legal services and or any assistance required to ensure that people have ultimate access to food security issues, we can certainly either amend the food assistance to ensure that we've called that out and or add an additional bullet however the board would like to move that forward.
Mr. Brown, could we take Ms. Lesher's comment in response to Supervisor Hines's inquiry, and would we need to do a formal amendment, or is that something that she's saying that that could just be clarified in the supporting materials to the item, or does this call for an amendment to the item?
Chair Scott, I believe it could be amended here from the dais.
Okay. Well, then I would, and the clerk is scribbling away, so I know she got that. I would make that amendment based on Ms. Lesher's suggestion, if you wanted to second that, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Christie. Oh, wait, first we'd have to vote on the amendment. So discussion on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, so it's amended 4-1 with Supervisor Christie opposed. Now we're back to the original item as amended, and thank you, Ms. Lesher. Supervisor Christie.
We've talked a lot about services here for a lot of different people. Are property taxes going to be paying for this?
Administrator Lesher.
Chair Scott, Supervisor Christie, these would be allocated out of the general fund.
Which
So, yes, sir. Property
which
tax.
is property tax.
Yes, sir.
So property taxes will be paying for this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Allen.
I want to echo, I think, Supervisor Connell and Supervisor Hines, and thank Supervisor Hines for bringing this issue to the forefront at the last meeting. I thank the staff for moving very quickly in pulling together a process that attempts to make kind of a level playing field for nonprofits in the community to be able to provide for the urgent need that folks are facing. I think what we are seeing now is it is a food crisis, which will then be pushing people to make decisions around paying for food or paying for rent or a mortgage, which is then going to push us into the next layer of another eviction crisis, and exacerbating our existing housing and affordable housing struggle that we are already struggling with on a day-to-day basis. And then we know on the horizon next year is a healthcare crisis with cuts to access in our state and making it more difficult for eligibility and folks to jump through hoops. So there is a series of just the erosions of the safety net will be unraveled through phase by phase in our community. So I appreciate that this first bucket is a 10%, and I hope that as we move forward that we create additional buckets as the various needs and the layers of the net become unwoven. I think that is and my last point is that we heard this at the last meeting, I think, from the food banks, that what is needed right now is money. Food drives are helpful, but ultimately that the food banks can purchase food at a far better rate than anyone else. So this is a call out to others in the community, from other municipalities, from businesses, from donors across the community, to contribute to our food banks across Southern Arizona with cash to help meet the need that there is. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Allen. Supervisor Christie.
Again, referring back to all of the services that property taxes will be paying for on this item, is there going to be any question as to the legal status of citizenship that the recipients are going to be receiving or not receiving? Does anyone receive these, or are they going to be United States citizens?
Administrator Lesher.
And Chair Scott, Supervisor Christie, the funds that we will be allocating go to the nonprofits and the organizations that are supporting the different programs. In terms of, I think we are not the ones that are providing direct services to an end user.
So, Mr. Chair, the NGOs may distribute these services paid out of property taxes paid to the NGOs to illegal aliens.
Supervisor Christie, people who are here as economic or political refugees are here in this country with legal status. They are not illegal aliens. It is unfortunate to characterize them as such. Moreover, this program is going to be done by application. And as it says in the supporting materials, the agencies that are supported are agencies that already receive support from the county through the Community and Workforce Development Department. I join Supervisors Cano and Allen for thanking Supervisor Hines for bringing the issue writ large to us 2 weeks ago. But I think what the county administrator and her team have done has come up with an inclusive and holistic process that takes into account the need that exists throughout the community, need that we heard 2 weeks ago, that we continue to hear. And again, these are already agencies that are receiving county support, and certainly we comply with all federal and state laws and regulations when we provide support to agencies within the community.
Mr. Chair, that was a very long dissertation on the obvious, that there is a potential that illegal aliens will receive taxpayer-funded money from this program. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Chair Scott.
Supervisor Cano and then Supervisor Allen.
You know, how quick we are to rush to judgment. And the last time I checked, this is a process that is very identical to the outside agency process that we approved in the budget adoption earlier this summer. So the same framework of us going to the community, asking for proposals, having those proposals reviewed by a citizen-driven outside agency citizen review committee, then coming to the Board of Supervisors for final adoption. That vote in this summer was 5-0. And so for us to utilize this opportunity to say that it worked then but not now, I think is just an incredibly disingenuous process. And I applaud the administrator for ensuring that there was a process, that it was citizen-driven, and that it was made in alignment with everything we do as a county to ensure that we help our county taxpayers and our county residents with the services that they deserve: food, housing, and that's all I have to say about that. If it worked then, it was a 5-0 vote from this board to adopt that budget with the same process.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Allen.
It is unfortunate that my colleague drops his offensive language and then leaves the dais because it is unacceptable language, I think, from this dais to be insulting members of our community and being derogatory and undignified. We do not speak to people in our community using that language. Thank you. It is unacceptable.
Thank you, Supervisor Allen. Any other comments or discussion on this item? All those in favor of addendum item number 5 as amended indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Item passes 4-1 with Supervisor Christie opposed. All right, we had another addendum item that Supervisor Allen put on. She had asked for a time certain of 11:20. I apologize, Supervisor, that we are 13 minutes late, but I'm going to turn it over to you. This is addendum item number 4.
So addendum item 4 is, again, in response as a background, and we have 2 speakers for this item, one of whom is online, one of whom is present, or 2 of whom are present. But just as a little bit of context, as we have heard, SNAP is being gutted, right? It is one of the most important safety net programs that we have to ensure that families do not go hungry. The impact of the cuts to SNAP is far-reaching and puts hundreds, if not thousands, at greater risk for food insecurity. This includes refugees, veterans, working families, and their children, young adults coming out of foster care, older adults. It will escalate as households have to choose, as we noted in the previous item, between going hungry and paying for the rent at a time that utility costs continue to rise. So it is our understanding, right, this is part of this rapidly changing landscape. The new eligibility requirements require people now to be eligible to demonstrate work, training, education for up to 80 hours a month. So to understand a little bit more about that, we've invited some experts here today to give us some context. Oh, okay. To give us some context of the scale and scope of the problem, because our task, as this item notes, is, I think, for the county to be able to identify ways in which we can utilize our departments, our programs, our services to ensure that people can meet the eligibility requirements and so that people do not fall through the cracks. The county is big, broad, and wide, reaching from Ajo to Arivaca, throughout the city of Tucson to Marana, and we do not want people to fall through the cracks for lack of eligibility, demonstrating work or volunteer, or not being able to fill out the new forms. So with that, I would like to invite our first speaker.
Supervisor Allen, pardon me for interrupting.
Yeah.
The clerk just let me know that there's a speaker online who's unidentified. That might be your presenter, if you wanted to ask if that is her.
Ms. Miranda, are you online? If you are on mute.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi, yes, this is Geraldine Miranda. I'm here online.
Perfect.
I'm here over the phone. I'm sorry.
Well, so let me make a little introduction to who it is that we are hearing from. Ms. Geraldine Miranda, who's the Economic Policy Analyst for the Children's Action Alliance and the Arizona Center for Economic Process. She has expertise in the area of federal benefits, which includes Medicaid, SNAP, TANF. Miranda is joining virtually. And so we'll pass it over to you, Ms. Miranda.
Thank you, Supervisor Allen. Yes, so thank you for inviting me to share a little bit about some of the recent changes to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. As was mentioned, my name is Geraldine Miranda. I am the Assistant Director of Fiscal Policy for the Arizona Center for Economic Progress at Children's Action Alliance. And my policy and advocacy work mostly focuses on the state budget and economic well-being programs like SNAP and the Standard Cash program. So as you're aware, over the summer, Congress passed a federal reconciliation bill known by many names, including H.R. 1. And this legislation made the deepest cut in the history of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program of about $186 billion. So among the many changes that this legislation made to the SNAP program, there are two that I would like to talk to you about right now that are already happening as of the passage of the bill over the summer, and that is changes to one piece of one of the SNAP work requirements. So SNAP has two work requirements, and so this legislation makes substantial changes to one of them. And the work requirement that it changes is normally referred to as the able-bodied adults without dependents work requirement. So I don't know if slides are being shown some over the phone, but I do have a slide that shows the impact or the changes to this work requirement. And among those changes are that it expands the work requirement to now include older adults until they turn 65 years old. Prior to this, there was an age limit of 54, so it expands it now to those who are, between 54 and 65 are now included. It also now includes parents, where it previously did not include parents. And now, there's a parent that has a child that's between 14 and 18 years old. They are now also subject to this work requirement. As there was a Fiscal Responsibility Act legislation passed in 2023 that provided some exemptions for veterans, people experiencing homelessness, and foster youth under 24. This budget reconciliation bill effectively ends those exemptions for these people. It also, for the first time, also restricts waiver requests that are based off of unemployment rates. So typically the state could ask for a waiver request, waiving large parts of the state. As of before this legislation, all counties were under this waiver, and now, the waiver no longer exists. All counties are except for Maricopa County. And so now many Arizonans living in rural counties and also living in Pima will be subject to this work requirement. Outside of the work requirement changes, the SNAP eligibility has also ended for many immigrants, including refugees, people granted asylum, and certain victims of labor, sex trafficking, certain victims of domestic violence, and other previously eligible immigrants with lawful status, which I think that another organization is going to talk to you about that a little bit more later. But in terms of Pima County, the changes to the work requirement will require more people to either, work or to prove that they are, working or participating in some kind of work activity. And currently the Department of Economic Security has what's called a SNAP Career Advancement Network that helps people connect to certain work activities. They have 22 providers statewide, 7 of which provide virtual services, and there are 3 in Pima County. But only 2 of those in Pima County serve all of Pima. The third is only for students enrolled in Pima Community College. So in Pima overall, there are about 145,000 people participating in SNAP. Of those, about 90,900 are adults. And so estimating, and if you want to go to the other slide that I have, so according to the Department of Economic Security's recent budget request, about 140,000 Arizonans are subject to this work requirement. And so if you take this number statewide and you kind of try to guess what that number might be for Pima County, that's probably about 23,000 adults that may be at risk for losing their benefits if they're not able to prove that they are meeting this work requirement. So it's not just completing the work requirement, but really it's going through all the red tape that involves sending your paperwork and making sure that it's received and all these things that just take a lot of time and take a lot of resources to do. At the same time, there's other changes to this that this budget reconciliation made that have led the Department of Economic Security to take more less flexible policies because they have this pressure to reduce the state's error rate or the rate in which they're making errors and making benefit determinations. And so based upon that, we have heard that the Department of Economic Security is no longer accepting attestation. So they're going to be more strict in terms of how people will need to prove that they are meeting these work requirements. So I think that's most of the information that I wanted to share, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Supervisor Allen.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda. I would like to invite up, and if you don't mind staying on the line, I'd like to invite up our other speakers, and then we can open it up from questions for both sets of speakers. We're going to hear now from the International Rescue Committee staff. The IRC has a long history of successfully integrating refugees into our community. District 3 office, along with other offices, have been working with IRC staff since this summer, diligently trying to identify what the impacts are going to be and how we as a county can be supportive. So I'd like to welcome Meheria Habibi, Deputy Director of Programs for IRC Arizona, and Director of IRC Tucson today to give us a brief overview.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Supervisor Allen, for the invitation to speak. Thank you so much to all of you for supporting our efforts County Administrator Lesher, Chair Scott, and Board of Supervisors. Again, my name is Meheria Habibi. I am a former refugee that I was resettled and have proudly called Pima County and Tucson home for over 24 years. I actually live in Supervisor Christie's district. Refugees like myself are long-term residents, workers, parents, and future citizens of Pima County. We are Arizonans. For decades, refugees who fled war and persecution arrived here invited by the U.S. government with legal status, work authorization, and a clear path to stability. Legal permanent residence after they have been here for 1 year, and citizenship after they have been here for 5 years. Because early jobs are low wages, as you have heard from other speakers, and rent is high, SNAP is always been a crucial bridge, especially for large families where only 1 or 2 adults can work, and language remains a major barrier for them to pursue other careers, even though they might come with credentials. Before H.R. 1, otherwise known as One Big Beautiful Bill, refugees were eligible, as you heard from Miranda, for SNAP benefits. After H.R. 1, SNAP eligibility is now tied to the immigration status, meaning that for many of those individuals that live here in Pima County, I gave you some handouts that has some information. 4,200 individuals are going to lose eligibility based on the populations that we work with, and that includes refugees that have been admitted under the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, asylees that have been granted asylum, survivors of human trafficking, special immigrant visa holders. These are individuals that have worked with the U.S. government overseas and supported them, and then Afghan and Ukrainian humanitarian parolees. As the federal government shutdown ends and most Arizonans see their SNAP eligibility reinstated, refugees and many of these other groups that you see on there are the only group that are going to be losing their benefits more on a long-term basis. And we are, in addition to the information that I gave you for the 4,200, we were trying to determine how many of these individuals are actually accessing SNAP benefits. So we started conducting a survey. In the last 2 weeks, we were able to reach over 1,100 individuals. And of those, we determined that 326 adults and 336 adults and 326 children were relying on SNAP benefits to supplement their income in addition to work and other sources. In addition to the loss of this benefit, unfortunately, many of these families are not aware of these policy changes. So our organizations, in coordination with other colleague agencies here, we started to hold information sessions, and we held our first information session on November 1st in partnership with the Pima County Library, where over 100 individuals showed up, and they had many, many questions as to why they're losing eligibility. They have been invited by the U.S. government here. They have been here. They have pursued legal pathways to get here. And after the government shutdown, when SNAP benefits were cut, we also held food distribution at our site where we served more than 273 families, and that was 1,414 individuals. So the need is really big. We really appreciate you for passing agenda item number 5. This is going to be immensely helpful, but we also ask that because these policies are changing on a monthly basis, and we're trying to catch up and stay on top of this. I know we have had a lot of conversations with many of you and your staff, so we really appreciate your time on that. But we would request the flexibility of these counties' support, of this grant, because we as refugee serving organizations are facing a lot of demand with very limited capacity and reduced capacity right now because of federal policy changes. So your partnership would really allow us to pivot quickly as new policies emerge. So thank you so much for your support on that. Refugees in Pima County have survived war, supported U.S. military missions abroad and are now working to rebuild their lives here. We have an urgent moment to protect their stability, and with your partnership, we would be able to do that. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for this. Now I would you like me to call the other speaker?
Supervisor Allen.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy
And
to answer any questions too. Thank you.
And do we also have
Yeah, Mr. Zamani?
Ms. Zamani?
Yes.
And I will note, and I'm sorry to say that we're running very tight on time and have to get over to another meeting, all of us, at noon. So if you're...
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Shamsuddin Zamani. I'm from Afghanistan. I came to the Tucson as a refugee program on 2023, and I was a civil prosecutor in my country. I was working with the government in that position for 16 years, and we had a normal life in our country. Unfortunately, the government collapsed, and our life was at risk, and we evacuated by the American team in United States. We start our life, and that time we arrive. I have 4 kids and my wife. We are 6 people in our family, and I appreciate the supporting with the IRC, JFCS, and the other organization. They help us, and we receive the EBT SNAP at that time, and that leads to have time to improve our language. I was not able to speak English at that time, and now I can speak English. And I am the only person working in my family, and I have to support 6 of us. I working 7 days per week and 14 hours every day, and it's hard for me, and it's hard to support my family. And thank you for passing that emergency program resources, and I appreciate your attention. I am working as a community ambassador in 29th Street Project Drive Zone, and I see a lot of family. They are in here, especially from Afghanistan. They have 4, 6, even 8 kids, and they are illiterate. And here is no opportunities, like a minimum wages too low. It's hard to support the family. Thanks, as a human, they need attention. Thanks for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any question. Thank you.
Did you want to move the item, Supervisor?
I would love to move the item. I would like to move that we direct the county administrator to identify opportunities for Pima County departments and programs, including out in rural areas of the county, to figure out ways in which we can creatively support the eligibility requirements now imposed for SNAP recipients.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Supervisor Christie.
Couple of questions. With all the asylum issues and the asylum activities that we were involved with, and it appears now that there's different gradations of asylum seekers, refugees, whatever, a whole list of them. It was my understanding in the early days of all the asylum seeking processes that those seeking asylum had to have sponsors. Do all of the folks that are going to be involved in this program, do they have sponsors?
My understanding from the presentation, Supervisor Christie, and this is also connected with the previous item, there's a distinction between people who are here on refugee status and people who are here as asylum seekers. People who are here on refugee status are here on fully legal status as either political or economic refugees. They're not required to have sponsors like asylum seekers are.
So this will be going to refugees only?
If you looked at the slide in terms of the SNAP recipients who are affected by the new eligibility requirements. That was my understanding. Supervisor Allen, am I leaving anything out?
We focused and we included a presentation that gave us a window into the unique impact on the refugee community. But as Ms. Miranda outlined, it is a much broader stroke of our community that is impacted by these increased eligibility requirements on SNAP, ranging from veterans, working families with children, seniors, and others. So this specific item is to look at how we as a county can create opportunities to improve and expand eligibility opportunities for everyone impacted by this higher bar.
Regardless of their immigration status?
You know, I'm just going to let that sit there. So this is intended to expand it out, the SNAP eligibility. If you do not have a legal status, there are requirements already in place.
Okay.
So
I didn't mean to, just asking a question.
it's just
I
the
know.
cumulative impact.
Just asking
Again,
a
these are-
question. I was called on to ask a question. That's what I did. And I have a couple of more.
Just to respond to your other one, these are folks who have been deemed eligible for federal benefits. There are new eligibility requirements. So these are folks who are already deemed eligible for benefits based on their status, but now they're dealing with new eligibility requirements.
And these eligibility requirements, thank you, Mr. Chair, these eligibility requirements, we know what they are.
We do.
We know how to comply for the recipients to receive the benefits.
We do, and the item that Supervisor Allen has put forth is asking the county administrator, when appropriate, to lend county support towards meeting those eligibility requirements, correct?
So basically, what we have before us is, in addition to the funding, is a request to assist those who are in this program or want to be in this program, to assist them in helping them find eligibility requirements.
To meet their eligibility.
To meet their, so that's really the bottom line.
Yes.
We're just here to approve and vote for the county to assist the individuals applying for this program, assist them to meet eligibility requirements.
That is my understanding. Supervisor Allen, is that a good summation?
Yes.
All right.
We could have said that probably a long time ago. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other questions or comments from board members? All those in favor of addendum item number 4 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. Now, as Supervisor Allen said, we have a joint meeting with the city that we need to get across the street to, but I want to do this before we go. I apologize if you're here to talk about agenda item number 9, which is a hearing on a zoning code text amendment, but I know that we have speakers for that. We're going to have to do that after our joint meeting with the city. However, there are 4 other hearings that I think we can resolve quickly. The first one is item number 8, hearing for a liquor license. Is there anybody here to speak to that item? Not seeing anybody, I will move to close the public hearing and recommend approval of the liquor license. Moved and seconded by Supervisor Hines. Discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes 5-0. Item number 10 is a hearing on a rezoning ordinance that is in District 1. Is there anybody here to speak to that item, Ms. Manriquez? All right. Not seeing anybody, I'm going to move to close the public hearing and approve ordinance number 2025-28.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Supervisor Allen. Discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes 5-0. There's also item number 11. This is a hearing on a rezoning resolution. Do we have anybody here to speak to that item? All right, then I will move to close the public hearing and approve resolution number 2025-50.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Supervisor Allen. Discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item is approved. And then we have item number 12. It's a hearing on a comprehensive plan amendment and specific plan resolution and ordinance. This is in District 5. Supervisor Cano.
Thank you, Chair Scott. I move to close the public hearing and adopt resolution number 2025-51 and ordinance 2025-29.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Supervisor, please.
Is there any possibility we could deal with the consent?
Absolutely, we can. Would you like to move adoption as amended?
I would like to move adoption of the consent calendar and for pulling from consent items 1, 10, and 12, but approving the rest.
So then we'd take those items up later?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that, Supervisor. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. So we'll take up those other items in the consent agenda after our recess. I move that we recess this meeting to take part in a joint meeting with the members of Tucson City Council.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right. Any opposed? All right. This meeting is in recess.